Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Morning Glory video. In today's episode, we shall continue to cast our ever critical eye over the Imperial Guard 10th edition index. This time, we shall be focusing on the big toy soldiers, the Glory Boys. I am of course talking about the Militarum Tempestus Scions. These stormtroopers are the elite of the Imperial Guard, the best of the best of the best. They are trained to a standard much higher than that of your average guardsman and are equipped with the finest war gear Departamento Militarum can provide. As a result, they tend to be more specialized, providing a scalpel to the otherwise blunt hammer of the Emperor. But the big question is, how do they perform on the tabletop in the new 40k? Well, there's only one way to find out. We need to sanction some elimination protocols and grab shoot right into today's episode. As is tradition, let us begin with a brief overview of what the hell this unit is all about. Unlike regular guardsmen who tend to be fielded en masse and are seen as disposable, Tempestus Scions are an elite unit. Their job is to provide an element of precision to an otherwise quite unwieldy faction. Whereas it might take several platoons of guardsmen to grind down an enemy monster or war machine with endless fusillades of las bolts punctuated by the occasional bit of heavy weapon fire, Scions are packing heat. They bring an excellent level of force concentration, and it's not uncommon for a single squad of Scions to have more special weapon troopers than they have regular riflemen. However, historically, Scions have been kind of fragile, very much a glass hammer unit, and this has meant that a lot of guard players have typically used them almost as suicide pinpoint strikes, where you take a small squad of Scions or two, load them up with as many weapons as possible, drop them in, eliminate one enemy unit, and then expect the Scions to be swept aside by the return fire. But at that point you don't care because they've achieved their mission. But is that still going to be the case in 10th edition, or will we see rise of some new and innovative Scion tactics? Well, let's get into the datasheet now. Let's lift up the rock and do the deep dive. Beginning with their stat line, Scions have a movement value of 6 inches, toughness 3, a 4+ save, 1 wound, leadership 7, and OC of 1. As you can tell from that pretty basic stat line, they aren't rocking much more than a regular guardsman. In fact, the main difference between them and, let's say, a Deathcore of Krieg Trooper is the fact that the Scions have got 1 extra better save with a 4+ representing their carapace armor, but they've also got 1 less objective control, making them noticeably less good for securing objectives. Whilst this profile doesn't seem overly inspiring, I think it does give quite a good hint as to how players should be thinking about how to use their Scions. These are guardsmen that pack a punch, but they don't have a lot of objective control. They should be sweeping the objective clear, but it's the job of your regular guardsmen to hold the ground. But now let's move on to their war gear, and this is where the stormtroopers start getting spicy. Their unit composition is 1 Tempester, which is essentially a sergeant, and 4 to 9 Tempestus Scions. So you can take them in smaller squads, and you probably will end up doing this. We're skipping ahead a bit slightly here, but Scions can deep strike. So if you take them as a 5-man squad, considering they're on 25mm bases, this means that you can plop them into some quite tight areas, and if your opponent isn't screening out carefully enough, he might just allow a cheeky unit of Scions to drop down behind him and start threatening some of his fire support units or artillery that are in the back lines. You may also want to consider the fact that you want 10-man Scion squads as well, because unless you are taking these in a pure Scion army, and we'll talk about that in another video when we get to the Militarum Tempestus command squad, these Scions are not battle line, so you can only take 3 squads of them. So you kind of have to decide, do you want to have 3 5-man squads for precision, or do you want to start maybe thinking about having bigger squads if you want to just field more Scions in your regular guard army? Regardless of what size of squad you pick, each Tempester is equipped with a hotshot las pistol and a chainsword, and every Tempester Scion is equipped with a hotshot las gun and close combat weapon. Interestingly, Scions, even though they're not battle line, can have up to 2 leaders attached to them, but only one of these leaders can be a command squad. Now, for every 5 models in this unit, up to 2 Tempester Scions can each have their hotshot las gun replaced with one of the following: flamer, grenade launcher, hotshot volley gun, melter gun, and plasma gun. If you're taking a 5-man squad, you can take 2 special weapons. If you're taking a 10-man squad, you can take 4 special weapons. However, it must be noted that you cannot select the same weapon from this list more than once per unit unless it contains 10 models. So what this means in reality, what it means in layman's terms, as it were, if you have a 5-man squad, you cannot take 2 melter guns. You cannot take 2 plasma guns, but you could take 1 melter and 1 plasma. And then when you got up to a 10-man squad, it means that you couldn't take 4 plasma guns or 4 melter guns and really concentrate on that special weapon that you're looking for. Instead, you would have to go for 2 plasma guns and 2 melter guns, or whatever special weapons you want. It could be 2 flamers, 2 grenade launchers. You get the idea. You can't take duplicates unless you take a larger squad, and even then you can only take 1 duplicate. In addition to the special weapons, you can also give 1 Scion a Voxcaster. But if you're a veteran player, there is a really important change that has occurred here. You used to be able to take a regular hotshot las gun and the Voxcaster. Now you can't do that. If you equip the Scion with the radio, he is only allowed to have a hotshot las pistol. This is a very annoying change that GW has done, because it is totally possible to build a Scion with a las gun and a Voxcaster, but for some reason, because the official instructions suggest that you have a Voxcaster with a las pistol, that's now locked in. There's no limitation on the kit. It's not hard in any way, shape or form. In fact, if you look at the Voxcaster, I believe it even has the ability for you to connect a hotshot las gun's power cable to the back of it. But for some reason, it's like, well, no. You're just going to have to use the hotshot pistol now. For some reason. It's a very frustrating change, and considering that GW in the last edition actually brought out like an FAQ and said, no, it's absolutely fine, you can have the las gun. For them to go back on that, I know it's going to be a bit annoying, because I know loads of people have built their Voxcaster guys with rifles, and no one's really going to want to pull those apart to give them a worse weapon loadout in the pistol. I know I'm making a big deal out of this, it's just slightly frustrating, but basically if you're taking Voxcasters now, you will have to sacrifice a little bit of firepower. But then we move on to a more positive note, and we get to the Tempester, the squad leader, and his weapon options. Now he can at first swap that chainsword out for a power weapon or power fist, and frankly, you're going to want to give him the power fist every time. It has 3 attacks, just like the power weapon. They hit at the same weapon skill. There's no modifiers, no negative to hit with the power fist anymore. It's no longer unwieldy, but it's got better strength, better damage, and the same AP. And the same thing basically goes for his ranged weapons. He comes with a hotshot las pistol. You're never going to keep that. You could take a bolt pistol, or you could take a plasma pistol instead. But realistically, you're going to take the plasma pistol every single time, because the hotshot las pistol is just a las pistol with an extra AP. The bolt pistol is just a standard strength 4 attack, but the plasma pistol has better strength, better AP, and it's just, you don't even need to overcharge. It's a no-brainer. So you always want to basically be running your Tempesters in your Scion squads with power fists and plasma pistols. Now, we've talked quite a bit on and off throughout this video about special weapons and Scions, and that's where you want to be focusing them. Most of the special weapons they can take are standard issue. It's the same flamer you find on an infantry squad, range 12, d6 attack, strength 4, auto hit, so on and so forth. Same grenade launcher, same melter gun, same plasma gun. The unique weapon that Scions get, and they had it before the cool kids, the Kazakin, is the hotshot weaponry. Now, hotshot weaponry is essentially like the las gun and the las pistol, just a normal las weapon, but with an extra AP. So, for example, a hotshot las gun is rapid fire 1, it's 24 inch range, it's 1 attack, so 2.5 range, it's strength 3, it's damage 1, but it's AP minus 1. And because of the Scion's superior training, you are hitting on 3s rather than hitting on 4s, like with a lot of guardsmen. Same for the hotshot las pistol, it's got a 12 inch range, it fires 1 shot, it's ballistic skill 3+, strength 3, damage 1, and it's AP minus 1. The hotshot just means that it's a bit better at cutting through armor. One of the more unique weapons for the Scions is the hotshot volley gun. This is a light support weapon, and it is a rapid fire 2, range 30, 2 attacks, so if you get within half range that becomes 4 attacks thanks to rapid fire, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, that's a bit punchier than your standard hotshot las gun, AP minus 1, 1 damage. I'm actually a really big fan of hotshot volley guns. I always have been. I think they're really cool. I actually think that volley guns in general, whether they're hotshot or not, should be something that a lot of guardsman squads have access to. It always felt a bit weird to me how guard squads have got these kind of unique special weapons like melter guns and plasma guns, and then they've just got these big, massive, like heavy weapons like bolters and autocans and stuff like that. They don't have any sort of light support squad automatic weapon, but Scions do. So I really like it for just the vibe, and I also like it because it's actually a pretty good weapon. So suddenly, what this allows you to do is get extra shots just on all of these rapid fire guns. And Scions have access to more of these than any other squad. You could have a unit with 5 hotshot rifles in it, because you just don't bother with the Voxcaster, which I think is probably the right call. At close range, they're getting 3 shots each. That's 15 shots right there. Then you've got the plasma guns, which at close range are getting 3 shots each. That's only 6, you've got 21 shots. And then you've got the hotshot volley guns, which are up to 5 shots each. That's another 10. So you're looking at 31 shots and a plasma pistol shot from the Scion leader. So that is 32 shots, all with decent AP, all hitting well because you've got that ballistic skill 3+, just piling onto the enemy, and that's from one 10-man Scion squad. Of course, this isn't the only way you can equip your Scions. Perhaps you want to go after enemy war machines and monsters, instead tackle the big beasties, bring it down, bring it down. Well, in that case, you want to be looking at things like grenade launchers with crack grenades, some plasma guns, and of course, the melter gun. Regardless of what loadout you pick, the most important thing to remember is choose weapons that complement each other. If you're going after tanks, pick tank busters. If you're going after infantry, pick infantry shredders. But don't try and do a mixture of both. A really bad loadout would be something like hotshot volley guns and melter guns, because one is very good at killing infantry but can do nothing to tanks, and the other is okay at killing tanks but doesn't have the volume of fire to do with infantry. In this case, your elite specialized Scions suddenly aren't specialized. They can't effectively tackle any target. And this isn't like the regular guard, who you can just shove numbers down the throat of the enemy and eventually grind them down. Scions need a job. You need to make sure that you give them the right equipment for that job. So that covers the range weapons, but now let us move on to the melee weapons. Normally, guard infantry want to stay away from combat, but Scions, in certain circumstances, actually don't mind getting up close and personal. They don't mind the choppy. And this is because not only can the sergeant take pretty punchy combat weapon in the form of the power fist, but each Scion comes with double the attacks of a regular guardsman. They each get 2 weapon skill 4+, strength 3, AP 0, damage 1 attacks. That's even more than Catachans. Now that's not enough for you to go toe to toe with World Eaters. That's not going to end well for you. But if you come across other guardsmen, other light infantry like Guardians or Hellfire Warriors, you can happily give them a volley from the weapons, shatter the squad, and then finish them off with a good bayonet charge. Essentially, you should think of Scions as light infantry bullies. But wait, there's more! Because we've also got the abilities of the Scions, starting off with the core ability, Deep Strike. This means you can hold them in reserve and then teleport them down anywhere on the board as long as it's 9 inches away from enemy units from turn 2 and turn 3. This is where the origins of the Scion tactics come from. As I mentioned earlier, they drop down, they do some plasma, they do some melter, and then they die. They've always been able to do this deep strike, and it's always been a cornerstone of the Scion tactics. And it's good to see that they can still do that. For me, I think deep strike is going to be used in one of two ways in 10th edition. You're going to want to use it to be able to deliver some fire support against a particularly nasty enemy unit, or drop down and destroy a key target aggressively with weapons is what I'm saying. Or another way you want to think about deep strike, one which maybe not as glamorous but could be game winning, is they can score you points. What happens if you draw the card behind enemy lines? What happens if you draw the card deploy teleporter Homer? But if you've got a couple of Scion units in reserve, suddenly those objective cards are eminently achievable. Remember, it's not always about doing damage to the enemy. It's often about going after the points and focusing on the mission. However, there are other schools of thought, and apparently many of them reside in the Scholar Progenium, where the Scions are trained, because their other unique ability is all about doing damage to the enemy. It's called Stormtroopers. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If the target of that attack is an enemy unit within range of an objective marker, you can reroll the hit roll instead. Straight up, this is an amazing ability. Fundamentally, just having reroll 1s on Scions is great. Combine that with the fact that you can get them hitting on 2s with take aim, and suddenly you've got a unit that's shooting better than Custodes. And they've got all the special weapons as well. Or it means you don't need to give them the take aim order. Perhaps if they're coming out of a transport or they're deep striking down, they can hit on 3s and have 4 rerolls as long as they're trying to sweep and clear an objective. And what's more, this gets even crazier when you realize you can combine it with the Taurox Prime fire support ability. We talked about that in our last Scion video. Essentially, if you have a unit of Scions inside Taurox Prime and they jump out, and you fire the Taurox Prime first and you hit an enemy unit, then the Scions that just disembarked get full rerolls to wound. This means if you had a 10-man unit of Scions disembark from a Taurox Prime and shoot an enemy unit on an objective that's already been shot at by the Prime, you would have full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound on every single attack. In my mind, this is the way to do Scions. All of the old tactics are still valid. Little 5-man squads dropping down. They've even got their own inbuilt rerolls now. Great. Can still do Suicide Plasma, Suicide Melter. And of course, you can also drop them down and score points. But having a unit with such concentrated firepower in a relatively affordable package as well is invaluable. It means that you can provide, for the first time in a long time, proper force concentration to your guard army list. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. How do you plan on running your Scions in the new edition? Traditional suicide special weapon drop, or motorized objective sweep and clear? Of course, if you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. And I just want to say, if you found today's video particularly helpful or informative, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. By supporting the channel, you will not only be helping me create more content, but unlocking loads of perks for yourself, including access to the Mordian Glory Discord server. This is an online community with over 2,000 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We have got channels for army lists, tactics, hobbying, painting, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. And I just want to take a moment to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. You truly are the lifeblood of this channel, and I could not do Mordy and Glory full time without your generous support. And last, but certainly not least, I want to say a personal, special, heartfelt thank you to all of my top tier supporters. These are the War Masters, the people that have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a massive thank you to Bon Bon Vert, Ken Starr, Mark Panconi, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Thank you guys. Your ongoing and incredibly generous support makes a huge, huge difference, and I am eternally grateful to each and every single one of you. I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.